Do you feel bad because you haven't been progressing as fast as you'd like to in your climbing? Or at least as fast as other people around you to whom you compare yourself with? There's certainly many videos on YouTube showing crazy progress within the first year of climbing or within the first 5 years of climbing, and it's natural to compare yourself with that and feel bad about your own progress. And if you're anything like me, maybe at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, you sit down, you write your goals for the year, and they look something like breaking into X or Y grade for bouldering or sport climbing, for example. But in this video, I would like to talk about why I think fast progress in climbing is irrelevant or even deleterious if chased directly. Let's get into it. Now, obviously, social media has a big role to play in fueling the obsession with fast progress in climbing, right? Outliers are much more interesting. Fast progress gets a lot of clicks and views and shares and so on. Nobody really wants to watch a video about somebody taking 20 years to reach V10, for example, right? But apart from that, I think it's a more general tendency that we have as humans, which is called the arrival fallacy. We think that once we reach some kind of external measure of achievement, in this case it being a grade in bouldering, sport, triad climbing and so on, then we will finally have arrived. We will finally be the finished article, the complete climber. We are finally ready to feel good about ourselves. But of course, this moment never comes. The internal experience of most people is the same at whatever grade they are at. Every time we have to struggle against the new harder problem, and this is what even top level athletes do, right? Once they put down a long-term project, then they just go on to a harder project next time and spend even more time struggling against that. And of course, this makes sense, because if we didn't have to put a lot of effort, if we didn't struggle a lot with our climbing, then we wouldn't value it as much. And this is another finding in psychological research, which is called effort justification. And basically, it says that people value more the things that they have put a lot of effort into. This is why we might value handmade gifts more than store-bought ones, and why we remember long-term projects that we put a lot of effort into more than something that we sent on our first go, right? Another reason why I think fast progress is irrelevant is that all of our improvement curves look like a logarithmic curve, more or less, with a quick increase in the beginning and then a tapering off in the long term. Usually, how high and how fast this curve goes up to its final plateau is down to parameters that we don't really control, such as the age you start climbing, the height, the weight that you have, your wingspan, other genetic factors, and so on. But in any case, if you climb for long enough, then most of your time will be spent in this flatter part of the curve. So what is the point of blowing through this first fast progression and then getting stuck there for longer? Now, you might say that at higher grades, the movement is better, the quality of the climbs is better, I can enjoy it more. But to this, I would say that you should think back to your first ever climbing session, when you most probably sucked, right? But you probably had the most fun you've ever had in climbing, I would say. I personally felt so happy. I thought I was in some kind of video game like Assassin's Creed or Prince of Persia that I was playing back then. And then I went home and I wanted to improve even more. I sat down, I started watching all the original YouTube climbing videos from Eric Carlson bouldering and others. And I started feeling like I was missing all these things. I needed to improve. And that for sure, I think, took some joy out of the process of climbing itself. I wish I knew back then that following the proper motor learning principles leads to slower learning in the beginning, but actually longer lasting skills and more generalization and adaptability of your skills. But finally, and maybe most importantly, I want to address a deeper point in all of this. We as climbers are the conquistadors of the useless. We're not climbing to survive or to acquire resources. We're doing it for the sheer joy of it, for the challenge, for the feeling of pushing our limits and overcoming our fears. Climbing is not some kind of means to an end, but an end in itself, right? And this is what is known as intrinsic motivation, when you're doing something just for the activity itself and not to get at something else externally. And even more, we are a bit like Sisyphus from Albert Camus' short story, right? We are privileged in the way that we have chosen to undertake certain problems just for the fun of the challenge to overcome those problems. And then once we solve them, we go and find new problems to solve. There is no point in just reaching the top because as soon as we do so, we will come back down and start the climb all over again. Okay, at this point, before I go on to talk about why I think fast progress might be relevant for some people sometimes, let me go through the reasons when chasing fast progress might actually be very harmful for your climbing. The first reason I think it is harmful to chase quick progress and try to replicate what other people have done on the internet is because I think there is nothing really to learn. I think most often the very quick progress of these outliers is down to factors that you can't really replicate, and then it leads you down rabbit holes looking for quick hacks or shortcuts to quick progress. But there are no shortcuts to real lasting progress. Consistency of effort is king, and your energy is better spent building a solid foundation of technique and strength on which to build upon rather than looking for quick fixes or magic bullets. This kind of attitude often leads people to overtrain and dig themselves into a big hole which they can get out of, eventually to injury, and then setting their climbing further back months or maybe even years. And this was the case for myself as well. The initial advantage I have because of upper body strength actually exacerbated the tendon injuries I had, since adaptations to tendons happen much more slowly than to muscles, and it took me a while actually to deal with these issues, as I have detailed in this video up here. But again, a deeper and more important reason why it is harmful, in my opinion, to go after this elusive, very fast progress in your climbing is because it leads to a mindset of comparison and it fuels this kind of ego trips. So either you will end up feeling inferior to other people that are progressing faster than you, or you'll feel superior to other people just because you reached X grade before others around you have. But if comparison with other people, either at your local gym or crag or online, is what fuels your drive for climbing, then I think you'll end up unhappy in the long term. Because in this age with social media, you can be exposed to somebody who's better than you at any point. Even if you're Adam Ondra, right? You can look at Will Bosey and see, look, okay, he has sent a bunch of V17s. Why haven't I sent any so far? Well, maybe Terra Nova will be one. We don't know. So no matter what, you'll end up feeling bad about yourself. And even if you're feeling too good about yourself, it's still not gonna help connect you to other climbers. And finally, just to keep things a bit balanced, let me go through the times when I think it might be relevant for people to progress very quickly in their climbing. And of course, these are the obvious. If you want to be a pro athlete, if you want to compete in the Olympics, if you want to get sponsorship deals, if your livelihood obviously depends on it, then you need to show a very high level of performance very quickly. And also, obviously, if you're an influencer on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever, and you want to get a lot of clicks, fast progress is one way to do so because it sells, of course. And finally, another case might be when you have limited time to send a project. For example, you have a trip coming up that only lasts 2 weeks, and you only have 3 months to prepare for it, so then you need to progress really fast to send the project you're after. Okay, before this video gets too long or too conceptual, I would like to leave you with some more practical maybe takeaways. We started the video with the question of whether you feel bad about your progress in climbing, and I have a couple of ways with which you can deal with this feeling at least. One way would be if you consistently film yourself during climbing. And this is not the usual case for filming yourself, which is to check out your beta or your technique and then improve upon that, which is also very valuable. But I mean it more in the sense of looking at your older videos, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and so on, and then you can notice slowly your progress. You can have this feeling of, oh my God, I cannot believe I was that bad. Luckily, now I'm so much better. Even if I'm not sending the next grade, oh, now I'm sending this grade so much easier, so much more smoothly. The other little practice that you could try that I have done myself and I found very helpful is to log your progress in your projects. I think that going through the project in your head can help you actually visualize the project better and then actually make progress on it, but also helps you notice the small nuances and the little progress you make from session to session, even if you don't actually send the project, even if the only thing you do is feel a bit more solid on one move or the other. And finally, I would like to leave you with another question, which is, what would you do if you were guaranteed to actually stay at the same grade forever? You would never send the next grade, either in bouldering or sport or trad. Would you keep climbing? Thank you all for watching. Have a good start to your new year and see you all in the next video.